And our coverage continues here in Israel, where we appear to be on the verge of what could be a critical moment in the war that we have been watching play out. 13 hostages are now less than 2 hours away from the start of what is expected to be that return home. We know that they are expected to be released around 4 p.m. local, 9 a.m. Eastern. If this deal between Israel and Hamas holds firm, and that is a big if there. Already the Red Cross says that there are a large convoy of aid trucks that are ready to go into Gaza the second that temporary truce goes into effect. Perspective now from former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, who is also the former Israeli deputy defense minister and a member of the Likud party. Thank you so much for being here, Ambassador. Good to talk to you again. Are you confident that this deal is going to hold?
We can never be confident when we speak about Hamas. We saw what happened only yesterday. But it looks like that within 2 hours, we're going to have a pause. Actually, 15 minutes ago, there was rockets flying into our southern communities. But we will wait and see. And then we're going to wait for the hostages to come back. There will be no celebrations in Israel because the majority of the hostages will still be in Gaza after almost 50 days. But the families were notified, though, that the hostages should come to meet them. And we hope that we will see more hostages coming, more than the 50 that were committed in the agreement.
Well, and of course, Israel has continued to hit Gaza, which the IDF says they'll do up until when that truce begins as well. Is it accurate that Israel is going to wait until those 13 hostages are actually in the custody of the Red Cross, which is where they're being handed over to, before those 39 Palestinian prisoners are released?
Yes, we have done it in the past. There is a mechanism to do it, between the Egyptians and the Israelis. So yes, we can do that mechanism. And I believe that we will see them coming home for their families only in a few hours. There's a lot of tension in Israel. There are babies. We are waiting to see the babies. Some of the babies are in Gaza without their parents who were massacred. So you can imagine the anticipation to receive them back home.
And I imagine some of these 13 are expected to be those children that are being held.
Indeed.
Okay, so as we're waiting for what that's going to look like, you mentioned there's 90 other hostages that are not going to be released in this period from what we know right now. One thing that Prime Minister Netanyahu said recently was that the Red Cross was going to be able to go in as part of this agreement to tend to those hostages, the ones that are not going to be released. We have not heard a lot about that lately. Is that still on the table?
Well, I have zero expectations for the Red Cross. We haven't heard them so far saying anything or visiting even one Israeli hostage in Gaza. And also, with Hamas, it's very tricky because if you look at the language of the agreement, it speaks about visitation of the hostages, providing medicines to them. And now they are saying that it was not understood. So we expect that we will receive full reports about all the hostages. We want to see evidence that they are alive. And in the situation where they need medical help, we expect the Red Cross to go there and provide that support.
But you're doubtful that the Red Cross is actually going to do that?
I'm very skeptical, both about the Red Cross and about Hamas.
The other part of this agreement is that aid is going to be going into Gaza, desperately needed humanitarian aid. I believe it's about 200 trucks per day as part of this agreement that is expected to go on. Is that actually doable? Is Israel actually going to be able to is there a mechanism in place to allow that much aid into Gaza and actually see that happen?
Yes. If you look at the numbers before the war, we allowed a similar number of trucks to go into Gaza, but that was through a checkpoint that we had control over. Today, the checkpoint is under the control of Egypt. We will inspect also those trucks. I think it's doable. We're going to have to work hard with the Egyptians to allow it to happen.
Who is inspecting those trucks and monitoring that aid as it goes into Gaza?
So there are two stages. The trucks coming from Rafah, from the Egyptian side, they come to Israel. We have a mechanism to look that there is no weapons on the trucks. Then they go back into Egypt, into Gaza. But it's very close. It's in the proximity of a few kilometers between the checkpoints.
I've been speaking to sources at the White House who are saying that they want Israel to open the Kerem Shalom crossing with Gaza to help facilitate the entry of even more aid. You're shaking your head no.
It will not happen. Enough. We are going to allow aid to come into Gaza, but Israel will not be connected to Gaza like before October 7th. We allowed tens of thousands of Gazans to come and work in Israel. We allow trucks to come for our ports. That's over. So if anyone wants to support the people in Gaza, he's more than welcome to do it, but he should send the material to the port of El Arish and to start to speak with the Egyptians about it.
Okay, so that's a flat no you're saying to that request that is coming from Washington. What everyone has been talking about could happen here at the end of this 96-hour pause is that Israel has difficulty restarting its military campaign in Gaza because you're facing so much international pressure not to do so.
We are paying
Will
a price.
Israel do that?
We are paying a price because we had a very strong momentum of the military, but I can assure that we will continue with the military operation. We are not going to stop. It's only the beginning. We are very successful on attacking targets in northern Gaza, but we are going after Hamas in Khan Yunis, in Rafah, in the central part of Gaza. We are determined to finish the job this time.
So it will restart, is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Ambassador Danny Danon, as always, thank you for staying up late for us. It is very late here in Israel, so we are counting down the time when this is going to happen.